Welcome, friends. So this is Emotional Wisdom with Essential Oils. And let me start by introducing myself. My name is Leanne Anderson. I am what I title myself a soul coherence guide. And what that means to me is this idea of different parts of ourselves inside us that live with the goal of being in harmony with each other and leading us into living a life that is expressing our highest potential and manifesting our divine destiny in this lifetime. One of the most important things I've found in order to get to this idea of living in soul coherence is having some emotional wisdom. And emotional wisdom to me is this idea of living in a childlike innocence that is full of simplicity, purity, and is pure joy. It sounds a little bit like way out there, unattainable, but I've found that there are ways to reprogram our physical body, our cells basically, our thoughts and our reactions to circumstances outside of ourselves. So essentially, we're moving from this state of victimhood where life happens to us. Everything is sort of out to get us, and we are attracting, in a way, bad luck or just bad relationships or things that, you know, we tend to gripe about. Moving from that state of victimhood to this place of empowerment. And this place of empowerment is an embrace of all of life's challenges, difficulties, ease, and living through it with this idea that there is polarity in everything. There is evil when there is good. There is dark when there is light. There is no way to experience the positive aspect of something if we do not also acknowledge the negative. And so when we are able to then accept what is coming at us with this empowered state of embracing our ability to in a way, reprogram our own response to it, and so it becomes a response versus a reaction, then we start to realize that these polarities actually are part of a whole, and that whole is that complete self that we are accessing within us, that lives in our heart, that is our I am presence, our divine self that can stay in that still point no matter the hurricane that swirls around us, the chaos that is somewhat of a low vibration emanation of humanity's troubles, if you will. So one by one, becoming hundreds of us to thousands of us now are starting to step out of that chaos and into this still point and to live from this place of empowerment. So why I choose to partner with essential oils in this quest, if you will, of living in emotional wisdom is the very fact that essential oils are the only known substance to man that can, first of all, cross our blood-brain barrier, when we inhale it, because it is so tiny, trillions and trillions of molecules in one drop, it enters our olfactory system. And incidentally, our olfactory system is the only system in our whole body of senses that can access our limbic brain. Our limbic brain being our unconscious reptilian brain that holds on to our emotions, our traumas, our memories. And how often have you heard that your reaction to something that triggers you today is a result of the programming you received when you were a child? And it can be as simple as you being denied your favorite dessert one day, and it lodged into your subconscious as a command of, if you want to feel good and not rejected, do not ask for ice cream, right? Or do not ask for anything that brings you joy. Like, you are not worthy to receive something you perceive as good. And that subconscious programming is very literal, and it's not our fault, but that's the way it works. And that is part of that soul coherence, that is that part of ourselves that we can actually start to reprogram. So it's back to essential oils. As it enters, you can think of the trillions of molecules as vibrating at certain frequencies. And just a step back, does everybody know what essential oils is? Yeah, okay, so I don't need to explain that. So as it vibrates at these different frequencies and you are inhaling it, it comes into your body almost like a song, music. And it starts to seek out the different cells in our body that are vibrating or that would find synergy with that vibration. And there is a method of lock and key in our cells that is very precise. So a certain key can only open a lock when it is keyed correctly. So miraculously or just divinely conditioned, there are certain essential oils that go into certain cells that unlock it completely, reprograms what's in there into the divine blueprint, if you will, and gets that going. So there was a Nobel Prize given to research done that showed that essential oils went into the brain and everywhere else. We have olfactory cells in other parts of our body, especially our skin, which is why even when we put essential oils in our skin, it is absorbing and going into that part of us that is now unlocking our traumas, our memories, our emotions. And the truth is, it's a very gentle way of doing it because it doesn't sort of flood your body all of a sudden with memories that you have repressed forever. It comes up in layers, in phases, and that's why it's a almost a practice, a ritual of doing it, inhaling it, and allowing that process to unwind, if you will. A lot of the tension in our body is from emotions that are being repressed and suppressed over time. And you know, what are emotions? Emotions are literally energy in motion, and our body is made up of energy that is started and continued by the beat of our heart. So our heart is, you can call it the seat of our emotions. And as the emotions become the language of the soul, our human programming and mind is interpreting it in ways that are either going to help us towards growth into completion of self, or into despair and anxiety and depression and all of that. So having said all that, I thought today we would go through some common emotions, and I'll show you how practically we use the oils and allow for transformation to happen. Okay? How much time do I have? Do you have any questions so far?
Until 2. So another hour.
Oh, okay. I thought like 20 minutes. Bonus! You had a question?
No.
No? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
I love this.
Yeah. Okay. So you may have heard that statement that up to 85% of disease is caused by emotional imbalance. And if we have been, really taking care of our bodies, eating well, doing bar, right? Doing sound baths, right? Yeah. And yet we're still holding on to, holding on because we don't want to release some emotions that are stuck inside. It is counterintuitive. It is counter to all our efforts in taking care of ourselves. So emotions stuck in our body shows up as pain in our hips, in our joints, headaches, tightness, and of course physical, emotional pain, like heart pain and any of that. So the kind of underlying reason we hold on to this is when we are unwilling to face the fact that everything changes and the whole universe works in cycles. There's birth, and then there's growth, and then there's decline, and then there's more growth, and ultimately there's death. But then there's, again, another birth to bring the cycle forward. And so, of course, we understand that on a mental level, but on an emotional level, we are holding on to something when we don't allow it to change and to evolve, to grow, to decline. Yeah. When we don't allow someone to leave us, or we don't want to leave something, or we want to cling on to this idea that this is the only thing that can keep me in, I can survive if I hold on to this. And so it's all based on this idea that we want to survive. And someone who may be in a domestic abuse situation would say, I have nowhere else to go. I have no means of supporting myself if I leave this. So it's almost always about how we are not trusting the flow of the universe. And so part of the coming into soul coherence is learning to trust, learning to accept, and learning to tap into this power within ourselves in order to create the lives we are meant to live, and to not believe those past programmings within us that tell us that we are unworthy, or that no one is going to save us, we'll be left to die in the streets, or all those really sort of apocalyptic type scenarios. So we also know that in the traditional thought from East Asia, emotions get lodged in different organs. So I thought I would pick out the 5 most kind of common emotions in our yin organs, And we will go to anger, which is stored in our liver, and loneliness, which is our heart, worry, which is our spleen and our stomach, and grief, which is our lungs, and fear, which is our kidneys. Yeah, and so let me just ask if anger is a common emotion that you feel.
I used to say no, but it's frustration is part of the anger group, so yes.
Okay. So
different forms, yes.
yes, yeah. If anger is a visceral reaction to something. If we don't express it, it becomes frustration, and that then leads to bitterness and resentment, and it's all related. But the first thing that comes up is anger. And if we allowed anger to inform us right there and then, it doesn't move on to the other deeper seated emotions. So I myself had a lot of anger, in my 20s, and it was translated into road rage. And if you lived in California, I was in San Diego, and I was that person that honked at you if you didn't move. Like, I give you 1 second. When the light turned green, and then I'll be honking at you. And so my sort of real aha moment came when, after I started using Young Living essential oils, I actually used it for acne on my face because I was dealing with a lot of digestive issues, and it was showing up on my skin. But I was educated and guided to use frankincense and purification, a blend, on my face. And lo and behold, it's purification for anger. And after a while, I was like, wow, I'm not like, honking at people, and I'm not yelling at he was 2 then. I'm not yelling at my 2-year-old. And so that was, I was like, oh yeah, that's why. Okay, next one. How about loneliness? Anybody feel that? Yeah. And so it's, of course, we're not here to bypass any of our emotions. We're actually talking about how, because it's the language of the soul, it is the seed into flowering into that gift of if you will, the higher frequency of that message, that emotion. So from loneliness, we move into really being one with all. Okay, how about worry? Yeah. Yay, finally. Okay. Yeah, so, and then grief, right? Again, it's not about not feeling it. It's such a normal process. It's when we stuff it and when we tell ourselves not to feel it that it becomes a problem. And then fear. Fear pretty much is the underlying reason for a lot of emotions, right? But basically, fear of the unknown is what we're talking about here. And, my favorite poem by Rumi is this idea, not Rumi, I take that back, by Rainer Maria Rilke, I think he's German, is this idea of living the question and living into the mystery of the question and not demanding answers, because that becomes the beauty in itself, is not knowing. Okay, so I wanted to show you a lot of how I use this is based on this book, Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. And Carolyn Mine is my teacher, and I'm actually apprenticing under her, and we are co-teaching a course coming up entitled Emotional Wisdom with Essential Oils Coach Training. So in order to help you understand how we're doing this, I'm just going to go through it one by one. Yeah? It's about addressing our mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical planes. And it's really about, let's say, we use the essential oil to clear the physical programming of the cellular memory. We are going to have an affirmation, which is really the mental part of recognizing and understanding why it's showing up in our lives. And the situations will keep showing up and keep trying to teach us the same lesson until we start to understand it and learn from it. And the emotional is first identify, and we're going to really feel the feelings. And then the spiritual is literally why we're doing all of it. It's just increasing the awareness. And then as we live our lives and walk our path, the language of the emotions that come through become just like, oh, I see that. Oh, yes, you know. And you start to really are able to sort of fine-tune your next best step based on this heart intuition that's being cultivated here. Does that make sense? So if I go into the emotion of anger, and I'm going to look for the point in my body. So this is based on the meridian channels and acupuncture points. And so it tells me that the point is in the liver meridian, and it is our nipples. Oops, I just touched that. And anger, being a burst of emotion, has another side. And the other side, there's always another side to the emotion, there are polarities. And this other side is laughter, because laughter is also a burst of emotion, but it is two opposite sides. And the way out is the affirmation is my direction is clear. And I like to talk a little bit about the understanding around that, is because in order to affirm it and really know what to look for, there's a need to understand what it's saying. So my direction is clear is really saying the anger came through and is asking you to take a different direction. That direction is triggering you for some reason, whether it is a different response or a boundary to be put up, or literally a different solution to what it is you are angry about. And most of the time, again, it's moving away from victimhood to empowerment. Now, the interesting thing about anger is we get angry because all of a sudden we feel out of control and we want to assert control. And so it gets to frustration when we keep butting our heads against something that we can't control, and all of a sudden it's like, frustration, you know? So my direction is clear, is going to show you that hitting your head against that wall is no longer going to work, and there's a different way. And in many coaching circles, you will hear this phrase of, there is a third way. We are too much in our black and white thinking in the Western dynamics of pros and cons and win or lose, right? And the third way is where everybody wins. And it almost always requires courage, humility, and I want to say compromise, but I also want to say we never want to compromise on our internal integrity. So actually, A third way that doesn't compromise on our own integrity is literally to walk away, right? Literally to say, this is not for me. I live my life differently. So that compromise is a compromise on that relationship, not never in your internal sense. Yeah. Okay, so this is purification. We're going to try it for anger, and I'm going to walk you through it. So one of the ways that it incites laughter right away is that we're going to put it on our nipples. But also, if it's like a very professional place and we've got clients and stuff, there's points on the hands as well, and it's all in here. But you know, the point for liver is like just right here. So we can do it there too, because in the end, it doesn't really matter in a radius of about a quarter of the point. So there's no need to like just pinpoint it. Okay, so so you put out your left palm, because the left side of the body is the receiving side. And you circle it around 3 times clockwise. Sort of it's with your other palm. Circle it around 3 times clockwise. And then you're going to put either hand, one on the crown of your head, one on the base of your neck, and just allow it to sit there for 3 breaths. Just inviting the essential oil and the plant spirits into your body. We move the hands now, one to our forehead and one to the back of the head, so it's just slightly above the back of your neck. Another 3 breaths here. So these are the emotional points, release points, filter points, and the crown, the vertex. They're just important for our acceptance and receiving of the healing. Now we take that and we can either, it's already on that point, or you can just put it, nipple. And then we're going to create a scent tent. It's just cupping of your hands over your nose and your mouth. And you're going to inhale deeply. And as you inhale, you're going to bring yourself back to a memory, that the first one that comes up in your mind that got you angry. And it doesn't matter if you no longer feel angry. Just allow yourself to feel how you felt at that moment in time. And also, sometimes we have no memory, and that's fine too. It's just that intention of calling up this idea of anger in our body. And you notice where it shows up for you. With no judgment, notice where you hold that tension of anger. And you allow yourself to move through it. And we usually take 3 to 5 breaths here, allowing the anger to move through us. And keep your focus on what's happening in your body versus how you're angry at something external. And so we move to the other side, which is laughter. And now bring your attention and focus to just the idea of laughter. You could be seeing yourself laugh, you could feel yourself laugh, any of the above. And you can also just use intention, I embrace laughter. And then you tell yourself, my direction is clear. My direction is clear as I move away from feeling anger just trust in your intuition and know when you're ready to just lower your hands. And to come back to the present. So did you all notice any thing that showed up in your body?
I don't know what it is, but two little, I just felt pain in the middle of my body,
Yes.
like my ribs.
And did it move throughout the exercise?
Yeah, I got way softer.
Yeah. Good. So those are the gentle release that the essential oils help with. And there is no need to analyze or put any story to it, but to trust and to invite the intelligence of the essential oils to go where it needs to. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else?
For some reason, stronger with my throat chakra.
Yeah. Yes. It's very much related to the idea of frustration. And frustration is like when you feel like you can't speak, but it really needs to come out.
Yeah, not being heard.
Not being heard, yeah. And did it shift at all?
Yes. And it helped actually to put the image outside, like here.
Yes.
That was nice.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. And so when I do this with my clients or myself, then I start to muscle test on how many times a day I should do this and for how long. If it's a very specific incident I'm trying to clear. And on a practical basis, I literally do this just whenever my heart tells me to, So, okay, so let's move on to our heart, which is loneliness. And this is White Angelica, which is a blend. Oh, the first one was Purification, by the way. Now, that's a blend with like lemongrass, citronella. It almost smells like a spa. Yeah.
It changes too.
It does.
It's more grassy, right?
Yeah. And the reason for that is essential oils have different
Nuances.
heaviness in a way. So some evaporate really quickly, some less so. So they call it base, middle, and high notes. And so what's left after what's evaporated is the base notes that stay for longer. So when they formulate perfumes, they use a lot of different nuances like these. Yeah. Okay, so loneliness is our heart. And the other side of that is connectedness with all that is. And the way out, the affirmation is, I go to a loving space. And so I want to talk a little bit about this before we do that. So this idea of loneliness. So alone, some people have used that word and said you can read it as all one. So all one is to be united, not so much just loneliness, but to understand that we are part of everything around us. And the only way we can feel that connectedness is when we are in a loving space. So in our hearts of feeling like, first of all, like we are loved and that we can love, and that the respect that everybody else as well has that capacity, whatever our judgments on them. And so I want to pause and tell you a little story here. A lot of the Zen teachings have lots of stories, right? So this teacher tells 3 of his students to take a chicken and kill it in a place where they are not seen. And so the first one goes, and kills the chicken and comes back, and the teacher says, "Oh, good, where did you kill the chicken?" And he said, "Oh, I just went into a room and killed it. No one was there." And the second one came back and said, "Yep, I did it." And it's like, "Well, where did you do it?" "Well, I went, really far away and made sure no one was around, and I killed it." And the third one came back, literally just like dejected and said, "Sorry, I failed you. I couldn't find a place that I was alone." And the teacher was like, "Why do you say that?" And he goes, "Well, everywhere I went, there was, living things, right? The trees and literally the elements were alive watching me." And the teacher was like, "Okay, you got it, So the teaching here is that even though we feel loneliness, we literally are never alone. And can we get to that space of sensing the love within us and around us? And this blend white Angelica is really something that a blend that I feel so deeply in my heart. And the way I experience it feels like a hug from the angels. Yeah, so I'm excited for you to experience it. Okay. So, one more thing. So where is the heart point? The heart point is, and then I have a chart that tells me where it is. So, midway between angle of jaw and chin. So it's actually like right. Where is it? Oh yeah, like right here. Yeah. So funny. I got lots of eczema here before, and that's why. So left palm again. What's the time? Okay. Okay, yeah. Okay, so go ahead, circle it around 3 times clockwise. And again, putting it on the crown of your head, the back of your neck. Just breathing 3 times here. This really is just about inviting the essential oils and the intelligence in the molecules to enter your body. Sending gratitude and humility to the vibration and the living energy of the plants. Moving now to your forehead and the back of your head. Opening up your heart to receive the healing that wants to come through. Putting the rest of that oil here on the part that's your heart point. And then creating that scent tent and breathing in loneliness. Taking yourself to that space of feeling alone. Noticing where it shows up in your body. Again, focusing on your body's messages versus trying to reenact any scenario in your life. feel loneliness. After about 3 to 5 breaths, we allow that to spiral around into the polarity, and that is connectedness with all that is. Arising out of loneliness becomes this feeling of connectedness with all that is. I embrace connectedness with all that is. And we affirm it with the statement, I go to a loving space. You're welcome to say it aloud if it feels good for you. I go to a loving space, moving away from feeling loneliness to embracing my connectedness with all that is. I go to a loving space as I move away from feeling loneliness to embracing my connectedness to all that is. And just whenever you're ready, just allow yourself to come back to the present. Did you feel anything on that one? Yeah. Wow. Oh, I just love it. It truly is a language, you know, and it's speaking to us. Yeah.
I felt it immediately before just here. I just started crying.
Yeah. It's really beautiful, that sense of release when it comes through the tears flowing, where it's not an anguished, desperate sob, you know? It's just this beautiful release. You feel it? Yeah. Anything to share?
No, I think it felt very soft.
Mm-hmm.
That's also because I've done a lot of healing work around it in the last 2 years, and it was kind of nice to be like, oh wow, yeah,
Yeah.
it is becoming very, very small.
Yes, yeah. And can you, when you embrace the connectedness with all that is, what is the sense that comes to you? Peace, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Overwhelming joy is
Yes, yeah. And hopefully it settles down to not being overwhelming. Acceptance.
Yeah.
The joy and the support is beautiful. Yeah, yeah. Yay. So I'm thinking we just maybe pick one more to go through. Either worry, grief, or fear. And it sounded like worry was a big one.
Worry or fear? I would want to.
Mm-hmm. Fear? Mm-hmm.
I think fear is.
Yeah, it's the underlying, right?
Now capturing the world.
Yeah.
I need to work a lot on fear for the world.
Yes. Perfect. So, fear is fear of the unknown is what we're working on. where did it go? Yes.
And also another combination.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So to me, they're like different songs, right? And they just become this harmonic symphony.
And almost like there's the grounding, but then also there's this. So
Yeah.
pulls you to different directs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The crown and the root are connected. So it goes. And it spirals out from the heart. It goes around. Okay. So we'll wait. I think she's waiting for Chris. Okay. So I'm going to talk about fear of the unknown, and the other side is knowingness. And the way out is listen to your heart. The blend is Sacred Mountain, and Sacred Mountain is a blend that Gary Young of Young Living blended it as his tribute to the mountains, where it was his place to go and talk to the gods. And so this has a very strong sense of knowingness, this strong sense of being connected to what we can't see. And so part of this fear of the unknown is that we can't know what's in the future. Even if someone who says they can read the future, the truth is there are multiple outcomes that are possible based on everyone's choices in the now moment. And the other truth is everything is already happening. The future is happening even now. There are different dimensions, that are being played out, and time is just a construct. So being worried and fearful of the unknown, which is almost always the future, is diverting energy from what you could create today, and diverting your resources for living out your divine purpose right now. And so you think of a huge mountain, and literally what you see is, or a huge iceberg really, or even in Hawaii, I think it's Mauna Kea. It is literally the tallest mountain on earth because underneath it is a lot more that we can't see. And so this idea of the stability of a mountain and all the, unshakable knowingness when we embody that. Yeah, we'll just wait for her to finish. Yes. So this idea of knowingness and the way out of listening to your heart is the practice of cultivating your intuition. And when we talk about what the world is going through today, what we're being challenged with is this idea of, do you know what is right for you? Do you know what your heart is telling you and where it is leading you? Because if you don't, then you will be influenced by all that is being, barked at you, which may or may not be of the right frequency for your journey in this lifetime. And it's sort of like the frequency of a radio. Like, what do you want to listen to? And the first radio station we should all be tuning into is our heart. And as we talked about how it's an electromagnetic frequency, organ, we have access to it. Everywhere we go, our heart is with us. And so we have, again, been programmed to separate ourselves from it, but ultimately our task here is to unite once again with our heart, which is where our knowingness is. So Sacred Mountain is going to help us get there. is one of my favorite oils. And it's also in our modality connected with the solar plexus, which is embracing the Christ consciousness. Yeah. Yes, yes. It was blended by Gary Young for his tribute to the times he spent in the mountains, where he goes to literally his conversation with the gods happened in the mountains. Yeah, so a lot of evergreens. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so start with hand on the crown, back of the head, inviting the high frequency of the essential oils, plant spirits to enter with gratitude, with humility, with a request for the intelligence of the oils to enter our body. Go ahead and put that on your forehead and the back of your head. And I forgot to look where it is. Hold on one second. Unknown. Pineal gland, pineal point. So it's going to be right in the back of our head where there's a little bone that sticks out. Right there. So it's kind of close to where we were. And then go ahead and inhale that in. And tap into this fear of the unknown within us, within all of us, is this fear that is stored in our kidneys, in this realm of the unconscious, in the darkness of the waters, this fear of the unknown. I feel fear of the unknown. Allowing yourself to notice where it shows up for you. Go into the depths of that feeling, floating in that fear of unknown. And then slowly, slowly noticing it cycle around, cycling into knowingness. In this sense of knowingness within our hearts, even if we can't see, even when it's dark, in the deepest, darkest waters of our kidneys. And we affirm to ourselves, listen to your heart. So it's literally our higher self speaking to our mental mind. Listen to your heart. Listen to your heart so you can move away from this fear of the unknown into the power of knowingness. Listen to your heart so you can move away from the fear of the unknown into the power of knowingness. Listen to your heart so you can move away from the fear of the unknown into the power of knowingness. And when you're ready, allow your hands to come down and rest. Come back to the present. When I imagine fear, I'm deep in the darkest depths of the ocean, and I can't see anything around me. And it's like, whoa. And then when I imagine that knowingness, all of a sudden it's like this peaceful floating, and even though I can't see, I can feel. I can always feel, you know. What about you? Oh, do you feel anything?
Yeah, for me it started first in my throat, and then it came down to like my heart, high heart area, then it come down.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we were doing the affirmations, it like slowly came down into my throat.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that our throat has so much to do with our fears, huh? Yeah. You?
This one was, I didn't connect with fear so much today, so that's a good thing.
Oh, good. Yes.
But I used to, and I, stepped into it, so now
Mm-hmm.
it's good.
Yes. Awesome. Mm-hmm.
I felt this beautiful connection with the oil that we just used about being alone and supported, and I felt that when we tapped into the fear, I felt so alone in the depths of the ocean, like you said, in the dark, and I was like, I'm all alone, anything can happen, I can die or something, right? And then when we transitioned into the opposite side, it was like I was so caught up in that fear, there was no other possibility. When we transitioned over, it was like I'm fully held by the water. And then it was so funny. The possibility arises. I guess that's what happens when we come out of fear. It was like water communicates. Communicate to the water and tell it you're in fear. And so I sent a message, and then the animals came to support.
Oh, nice.
I think the message was like, when we come out of fear, there's more possibilities that arise.
Yes.
You never think of, because you're so wrapped up in just me being alone and nothing else exists.
Mm-hmm.
Just that about community when you said that. Like when you're in fear, you almost in a way isolate yourself, right? And when you come out of it, you seek that community to support you. Yeah, and I was so held by the water, even though it was in the dark, and I was held by the animals, and I'm like, oh, now I'm fully embraced by all of conscious. So it was like this sort of back and forth with the oil that we just worked
I
with.
love it. Yeah.
Which animals?
The dolphin came to pick me up from away from the deep, deep dark.
Ah.
And then the whale.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Yes. It is. Ultimately, we all have a lot of these emotions. They go through the story, if you will. And we, as humans, we go through it, it's fine. But we get to this ultimate vibration where it's sort of like we're in the center of it all, and it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for playing with me today. Mm-hmm. Any final questions? Anything you want clarification on?
So if you're working with a specific emotion that is very present for you,
Mm-hmm.
that's been a block for you, how would you use essential oil to continuously work through that
Mm-hmm.
emotion?
So
Just through this process.
yes and no. This is one modality. And if we're talking about this modality, then there are a lot of entry points. So if you know the specific situation, then you are very likely to know the emotions surrounding it. And if you know that, then we have a list of emotions here in alphabetical order. You find the emotion, and then you find the oil, and you find the point, and then you go through the process. If you don't know the emotion, but you know where it lands in your body, then you enter, the entry point then is the point, the physical point. So let's say, I'm just like hurting back here, I don't know why, but I know it's related to this incident, right? So you find that point, and then you find the emotion. And other times it's like, I don't have any other oil, I got frankincense, tell me what. Then I read out some of the emotions associated with frankincense in here, and you're like, okay, that one. Because the truth is, it doesn't matter where you start. They all work in sort of conjunction. It's like once you address a certain frequency here, it changes everything else, And ultimately, the frequencies of the oils just help to find harmony, and that is moving away from distress and all of that. Now, to answer your question, are there different ways to use it? Then, so of course, if there's a certain incident in our mind, then we can talk about the intention of wanting to release it. And very simply, we have an oil blend called Release, and we have that intention, and maybe we're journaling, or we're going through a very specific exercise of really releasing it. Maybe that's moving, right? Moving energy is part of it too, so you can dance and you can use the oil release, and you can just tonight, this is the end of it, like no more, and our intention is really the most important thing here. And to realize that as empowered creative beings, that is the connection between source energy and the elements available in this earth as living energy. We, as that connection, have the power to, with our intention, create any outcome we want. And with that, there's also the danger of many, many people in the world today literally practicing unknowingly sorcery or black magic, right? Whenever we have an intention to cause harm to someone, we are practicing that, because the energy we're sending that way is very real. And so whether it's to a politician or someone we believe should have justice, we are practicing that when we send it to them. And I myself am very aware of never using my power for violence, harm, but that is something I try to educate people on. Like, if you knew how powerful you were, you would never think another negative thought, not on yourself and not on another being. So yes, intention is the number one thing. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have something you are looking to work on?
There's several things, but I was just wondering in regards to working with my clients, right, and how I would working through just like a specific emotion or situation.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's what we do. It's like working with clients and all the different ways of entry, of finding the emotion. Yeah.
Does it usually only use the healthy young living oils?
The young living
do
oils?
they say also what the ingredients are that you could use other ones as well?
Yes, so some of these are singles, some of them are blends. It is a well-known fact that the synergistic effects of different single essential oils are much more powerful than using it alone. So 1 + 1 is not 2, it's 5, This modality itself, and my choice, is Young Living essential oils, only because it is of the frequency that is in the bottles, because of the attention and the intention of the growth process and the people who work on the farms, and the whole idea of it not being sort of corrupted by profits. It's for the plants and the people. But there are, of course, other essential oils out there that are available that people have used and found great results in. And so, yeah. And all these blends have ingredients, and so you could try and blend it. Yes, yeah. Yeah. All good? Yeah. You're so welcome.